You're welcome to the African Lens News channel. If you value justice, freedom, and thoughtful discussion, you're in the right place. If you're joining us for the first time, please like, share, and subscribe to stay informed and connected to us. Your engagements will help this video to reach more people. Thank you very much. My people, something is happening under the carpet, and I feel all Africans must be alert and rise to oppose it. The U.S. Marine Corps General Michael Langley, who is also the Africom commander, is now speaking with a double tongue, and this makes things look scary. Can Captain Ibrahim Traoré trust the general at all? Let's watch his previous video, and I'll be back with the current video of him here in Kenya telling us another story. After the analysis, you can then judge for yourself if the cooperation they want with us Africans, especially Burkina Faso, is worth it.
I can imagine a situation, though, in which the ruling elite of a country is receiving gratuities on the side that in order to the benefit of the strongman leader and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traoré and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime. There's a number of examples across. Even in Sudan, what's going on with the rapid support forces and Burhan of the Sudan forces.
Now, family, I want you to listen very carefully to what just happened. In front of a Kenyan journalist from Citizen TV, General Langley tried to clean up a mess of his own making, but instead he exposed something much deeper, something the entire continent of Africa needs to hear and respond to with clarity and with unity.
General, let's talk about countries taking on their own autonomy. You are on African soil, not for the first time, but this would be a good moment to ask about one of the countries that has taken its own autonomy, and that's Burkina Faso. Your remarks recently at the Senate seem to suggest that he's diverting, General Traore, is diverting its 4 billion gold reserves to sustain his military rule rather than for public welfare. These remarks sparked widespread condemnation across the continent. What did you mean by that statement?
Let me speak to Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty. They make their decisions how they use their resources. They make their decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward, okay? But then when you look at the military part of it, knowing that that's the epicenter of global terrorism, it was my time to illuminate that this is probably their weakest point, and there needs to be sufficient resources going towards for the whole fight of terrorism in that country, period. They make their decisions, though. That's their sovereignty, their sovereign right to make their decisions, what is appropriate, what's not. But I wanted to illuminate that is going in the wrong direction now. ISIS is getting stronger. JNIM is getting stronger. Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Maghreb is getting stronger in that country.
And do you think it's getting stronger after General Traore took over?
It has. Just look at the numbers of attacks. It really has, since 2022. I've been tracking this since I took command. So, no ill will towards him, but the decisions is their own. They're looking for other ways to be able to, they're still on a warfighting footing, but it's just going to take more resources.
So you stand by that statement? Because there's been pressure on you to walk those statements back.
That's my statement. That's my assessment. That is getting worse. More needs to be done for not just local, but whole of country, because of these violent extremist organizations are seeking revenue, they're seeking resources, they're seeking recruiting from the Burkinabe people, and they're seeking refuge within their country. That threatens their sovereignty.
And that threatens America's interest?
Say again?
Does that then threaten America's interests?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Because especially ISIS, and of course in East Africa is inextricably linked all the way to ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel, and there's going to be probably a move afoot for them to move and seek refuge within the line. So we have shared objectives, and we offer to work together with the Burkina government and border countries. Mali, Niger, coastal West Africa countries, collective, because here's what these organizations do. Here's what these terrorist organizations do. They seek refuge in the seams or the borders of these countries and lets them thrive and grow and lets them recruit, gain resources to carry on their illicit and nefarious activities against the populations of those people.
And what would America, perhaps Africom, be prepared to do? Would you be considering an ouster like we saw with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? Because there's still many Africans who are yet to recover from that. If this is a bigger threat, as you say, in Burkina Faso, what is Africom prepared to do about it?
We do indications and warnings. There's a number of activities that we do, and we'll just go ahead and mention building institutional capacity. There's not going to be U.S. boots on the ground. Very, very small for exchange of ideas and training, exercises. Over time, that builds institutional capacity and capability in these armies. There, Africom, we are working towards a burden sharing and a burden shift for their independent operations. That's our goal. We have the shared objectives because these same terrorist groups can threaten our homeland. So we're in concert. I was just an African Lion over in Morocco, and a number of countries working together to be able to
Is Burkina Faso invited here today for this conference?
Yes. Yes. They were invited to African Lion in Morocco. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like I said, we're moving forward.
Okay.
We're moving forward because we have that shared goal of defeating terrorism.
All right. Speaking of that, because the reaction out of the statements that you made about Burkina Faso were several African leaders feeling you are speaking on sovereignty issues that America shouldn't be. And as a result, there are those who see the role of Africa as less of a partner in, the war against, shared threats, as you mentioned, and more of a protector of Western or American economic interests that allows access to Africa's vast mineral resources, and as more of a paternalistic relationship than one of respect amongst peers. What would you respond to that?
I respond that there's others on the globe that do that. There's others on the globe that do that. Now, I'm going to even bring it up. We should have even already know, okay? But I'm going to even bring that up.
Okay.
We respect the sovereignty. We respect their decisions. We respect their decisions of who they choose as a security partner. And then we measure the common denominator that's keeping these countries across the Sahel from progressing forward.
Langley says he respects Burkina Faso's sovereignty. He says he has no ill will towards Captain Ibrahim Traoré. But then, In the same breath, he accuses the Burkinabe government of letting terrorism grow. He says gold reserves are not going to the right place. He's casting doubt. He's putting pressure, all under the mask of military concern. Let's call it what it is. A man representing US military interests abroad, giving himself the authority to publicly lecture an African head of state on African soil in front of African media. This is not partnership. This is not mutual respect. This is soft power imperialism wrapped in military jargon.
Let's begin by understanding why you're here. There is the Chiefs of Defense Forces conference. Tell us about that and what role Africom is playing.
Well, for U.S. Africom, we yearly put on the Chief of Defense Conference. You know, when I first took command back in 2022, we had a conference in Rome. And I said, you know what? That's fine and good. You know, everyone wants to go to Rome, but I saw that this conference is for the African Chiefs of Defense. It should be on the continent. And we went to have our own last year in Botswana. And it really opened things up to address issues, military issues, security issues, shared objectives of how to achieve security and stability across the continent. So that was a purpose. And now we're here in Kenya. And as I had discussions with the Chad, General Kariri, he says, yes, I would love to host this conference. So it's an ownership by the Chiefs of Defense across Africa. And here we are.
Tell us about the relationship between, Africom and, of course, the various militaries around Africa. And we'll come to Kenya in a moment. Mm-hmm. But speak to us about the cooperation and the support that's been provided. How would you categorize that?
Oh, wow. It's broad and wide as far as our engagement with the militaries across the continent, across the regions from North Africa to Southern Africa, East and West. We deepen our partnerships with various countries and their militaries to build towards what we see first as security comes first. For good governance and to institutionalize the militaries is the first step to be able to get stability and also prosperity for countries. That's where we engage with various countries across West Africa and East Africa and across the Maghreb as well, and then in Southern Africa. We've been building on these relationships for years, since 2007, 2008, engaging with various African countries that have shared objectives, shared values in our approach to the threats, but also to explore the opportunities.
Burkina Faso is finally trying to take charge of its own future. Under Traore, they are saying no more foreign interference. They're protecting their gold. They're building local resistance against terrorism, not relying on foreign troops. And yes, that means making hard decisions. Decisions that don't favor Washington, Paris, or Brussels. So when General Langley says we're tracking gold reserves, we have to ask, why is the United States tracking Burkina Faso's gold reserves in the first place? Is it about terrorism or about control? Langley says terrorism is growing because of decisions made by African leaders. But why is there no reflection on decades of failed US and French counterterrorism efforts in the Sahel? Why is it only now, when Africa is taking matters into its own hands, that the alarm bells ring louder? The truth is simple. It threatens America's interests. That's the heart of the matter. Africom is not here for African liberation. It's here to protect American investments, access to resources, and influence over the decisions our countries make. Every generation of African leaders who stood up and said Africa must control its own destiny, they were either assassinated, removed, or discredited by the same powers now claiming to help us. The blueprint never changes. To every African watching this, our sovereignty is not a suggestion, it is our right. It's time we call out every foreign power trying to play the savior while undermining our freedom. To the youth in Ouagadougou, Nairobi, Lagos, Bamako, Accra, and the rest, this is your moment. They fear an Africa that thinks for itself. They fear an Africa that guards its gold, its oil, its uranium, its future. Let them fear, because the African lion is waking up. I'm not saying don't be alert about extremism, but extremism is not the only threat. Neo-colonial control of our leaders, our resources, and our destiny is the biggest threat of all. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Africa Lens for more in-depth updates. Like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. Until next time, this is Africa Lens keeping you informed and engaged.